In the top stories, police investigating shooting incident in Nevis. Family of slain 6-year-old in Jamaica seeks justice, and the trial for officer who shot DAUNTE WRIGHT begins in Minneapolis. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is the 9th of December 2021. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, the police are investigating an incident in the Sandy Point area on Thursday morning that left one young man hospitalized. According to a police official, the investigation is still underway, so details are still being compiled. In the meantime, the police have confirmed that it occurred at Bouncing Hill and the male victim has been hospitalized. Meanwhile, investigations continue into a shooting incident on Nevis on Wednesday night. The police say sometime after 10 p.m., police received a report of gunshots being heard in the Cotton Ground area. The police visited the scene and pieces of evidence were collected. No injuries were reported. We'll have more information on both of these cases as it becomes available. After a review of its current policies and following several rounds of discussions with health and tourism officials and representatives of the COVID-19 task force, the government will ease two significant measures at the ports of entry. The government previously withheld the easing of these restrictions as it gathered more information on the Omicron variant of the COVID-19 disease. According to a statement, effective Saturday, the 11th of December, all fully vaccinated passengers 12 years and over arriving in St. Kitts and Nevis with a negative PCR test taken within 72 hours of arrival will no longer be required to undergo a quarantine period or further testing upon arrival. Also, the protective barriers at Port Zante will be removed on Saturday, effectively making Port Zante more accessible to all and allowing for greater business activity. According to information out of government headquarters, the decisions on these two measures are based on the science and following the advice of local health experts who are guided by reputable international agencies. Health authorities have advised that the Omicron variant appears to be less severe than the Delta variant, and based on the scientific knowledge of the Omicron variant and the high vaccination coverage in St. Kitts and Nevis, they recommend these measures can be implemented with minimal risks. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis continues to urge all eligible citizens and residents to take the COVID-19 vaccines, as it remains the single most important tool in the fight against the virus. Local health experts are also encouraging everyone who is eligible to take the booster shot to enhance their protection against the virus. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris was among more than 100 world leaders, representatives of international and civil society organizations and the private sector participating in the first Summit for Democracy organized and hosted by President of the United States of America, Joseph Biden. The December 9 to 10 Global Summit on Democracy intends to set forth an affirmative agenda for democratic renewal and to tackle the greatest threats faced by democracies today through collective action. The summit will also seek to galvanize commitments from participants across three principal themes: defending against authoritarianism, addressing and fighting corruption, and advancing respect for human rights. In opening the summit, President Biden said the threat to democracy is one of the defining moments of our time. He said, quote, "Democracy, government of the people, by the people, for the people can at times be fragile, but it is also inherently resilient. It is capable of self-correction and it is capable of self-improvement." This week's Summit for Democracy is the first of two such events planned by President Biden. The next event is expected to be staged sometime in 2022. We now move to news on the regional scene. The police in central Kingston are investigating the death of 6-year-old Tamora McCallum of Solitaire Road, who died from a single gunshot wound she sustained while at the premises on Text Lane on Monday. Here's more.
From playing an innocent game of hide and seek on Monday afternoon, 6-year-old Tamora McCallum ran through this very hall after being shot by accident and fell face down in the middle of Text Lane in front of her mother. A community in mourning for 6-year-old Timora McCallum, who was just 3 weeks shy of her 7th birthday on December 27. Our news team visited the area on Text Lane, where the feeling of despair and sadness was palpable as the family struggles to come to terms with the tragedy. Timora's grandmother says they are traumatized, struggling to come to grips with the reality of what was a careless act.
What I'm saying is that is a part of carelessness. You understand? Because you do nothing like that. Your granddaughter and your granddaughter cousin inside. Hello, come on. Put that one side, brother. You see me? Then when it happens now, you're going to still have a hide. Yeah? Sorry, so the police them come. God knows can get jungle justice.
She adds Tamora was an excellent student at the St. Aloysius Primary School.
2 months straight online class, she come first in her class. She's a very brilliant little girl. It's a book work she ramp with. It's a dance, because she done in dance class, she love that.
The family is also calling for justice.
I now just refer to jail, him need for go. Because God knows this can't be real to a 7-year-old or 6. Come on.
In a release from the Corporate Communications Unit CCU, the suspect immediately fled the area but later that evening returned and was mobbed and beaten by residents and is currently hospitalized under police guard. Police are appealing to witnesses to come forward and give information about the incident. Javine McLean, CVM Live.
Antigua and Barbuda's state of emergency is expected to expire on December 23, but Prime Minister Gaston Brown says that could be extended if Omicron proves to be a deadly variant of COVID-19. While vaccines are still being sought, other therapies such as stem cell treatments are being considered to treat COVID. Ragib Aparicio has this report from ABS News.
The fifth variant of concern, the Omicron variant, is the government's biggest concern as it looks to bringing the state of emergency to an end on the 23rd of December. Prime Minister Honorable Gaston Brown explains, should the next few weeks prove challenging, the state of emergency could be extended again.
If the Omicron doesn't prove to be a vicious variant, then we are likely to continue with that decision. But if within the next couple of weeks it spreads rapidly and it becomes a significant threat, then clearly we have to review and perhaps revise or repeal that decision.
With or without the presence of the state of emergency, COVID-19 will continue to pose a threat to the country's recovery. In order to mitigate COVID-19's impact, the government is taking steps to protect the citizenry.
I just had a discussion with the Indian High Commissioner in Ghana to acquire another 60,000 AstraZeneca vaccines.
Beyond preventing severe COVID-19 infection through vaccination, the government is also intent on introducing antiviral treatment methods.
We're also in the market to get some of these COVID therapies. They're pretty expensive, but we want to make sure that we have them in stock in order to, at least have additional tools to fight hospitalization and death.
Another treatment method the government is pursuing is stem cell therapy. Prime Minister Brown explains stem cells have previously been utilized to treat a severely ill COVID-19 patient.
That person was intubated and from all indications the patient was dying. And the individual was treated with stem cells and made a miraculous recovery. So that person is no longer in the hospital, is out and well.
The country, he says, has sourced $100,000 worth of stem cells to be used on consenting patients.
The stem cells would not create any harm to the individual. The question is whether or not it works against COVID. So we will develop some primary data here in Antigua and Barbuda, which potentially we can export to the rest of the world.
The Prime Minister boasts the country's stem cell industry is thriving, with patients returning to the country on a weekly basis for treatment. Rakib Aparicio reporting for ABS News.
Internationally, the trial of former officer Kim Potter began on Wednesday in Minneapolis, months after Potter shot and killed 20-year-old DAUNTE Wright. Wright's mother, Katie Brandt, took the stand as the first witness against Potter. Here's more.
A crackdown on smoking in New Zealand. Plans for a smoke-free generation have been finalised. Youngsters aged 14 and below will never be allowed to purchase cigarettes.
We want to make sure.
He called me to tell me that he has been pulled over.
In Wednesday's emotional testimony, Katie Bryant recounted one of her final conversations with her son, DAUNTE WRIGHT, before he was shot and killed by police on April 11th.
I am Katie Bryant, his mom. I want to see now.
Body cam video shows Bryant arriving at the scene after Wright's girlfriend video called her from the car and showed her Wright's body.
I wanted to hold him. And I wanted to protect him because that's what mothers do.
Police pulled Wright over for expired license plate tags and an air freshener hanging from his rearview mirror, which is illegal in Minnesota, and discovered he had an outstanding warrant. Video from Officer Kim Potter's body cam shows police attempting to arrest Wright. Before Wright gets back in his car, Potter then pulls out her gun and shouts, "Taser."
I'll tase you! Taser, taser, taser!
Before shooting Wright in the chest.
This case is about the defendant, Kimberly Potter, betraying her badge and betraying her oath.
Minnesota Assistant Attorney General ERIN ELDRIDGE argued that Potter, a 26-year veteran, violated her firearms training.
I shot him! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
By failing to recognize that she had pulled her firearm from the right side of her body instead of the taser on her left.
We trust them to know wrong from right and left from right.
The defense argued that while Potter made a mistake in grabbing her handgun, it was in defense of a fellow officer who could have been killed if Wright drove away.
And all Mr. Wright had to do was stop.
Potter is expected to take the stand next week. For CBS Mornings, I'm David Schumann in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And now for the weather. Current conditions are fair skies with a gentle breeze of 10 miles per hour from the northeast. Temperature for today is 29 degrees Celsius or 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Seas are moderate with waves of 5 to 6 feet. Shallow pockets of moisture embedded with a moderate to sometimes fresh breeze will result in brief periods of cloudiness and the possibility of brief passing showers over the leewards today and tonight. The weather forecast in St. Kitts and Nevis for today and tonight will be partly cloudy in general with a 40% or moderate chance of brief light showers. Sunset today will be at 5:37 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.